Hello students, I wanted to talk about articulation today. Normally we talk about articulation in every concert cycle. It's part of preparing for our music, and we have some things on here that are very familiar to us and some things that in the middle school we use less often. High schoolers, you should be super awesome at all of these. Where it gets complicated is that sometimes the style of tonguing or the style of staccato changes from song to song. So this is more an introductory to all these articulation marks, knowing that it can get more advanced. So in beginner band, we tend to start with tonguing. With regular tonguing, it's just using your tongue to separate the notes without stopping the airstream. Most of us think of this as the ta tonguing. There are a few other ways to approach it, but most beginners do the ta. The next thing that most of us learn is the slur. Slur is the smoothest way to switch from one note to another. It is where you simply wiggle the finger while switching notes, while not tonguing. There are air accents that can be added, which would be a change. You can air accent and slur notes, but let's not get into that now. Trombones can only do a true slur if both notes are in the same slide position. Otherwise, they need to do their legato tonguing. But everyone has legato tonguing. Trombones just do it for slurs. Legato tonguing is playing as smoothly as possible while still using the tonguing. And instead of thinking ta-ta, you would think do-do. For those that have had me in regular band class, this would be where we put our hand in front of our face while saying ta-ta, do-do, and we'd feel the difference in the break of the airstream. And then as we go this way across our chart of articulations, we get to different articulations that are more and more aggressive or separated. Marcato tonguing puts some space between the notes. Staccato tonguing puts a lot of space between the notes, making them very short and detached, but not louder. Accent, often combined with other things, like accent and tenuto, accent and staccato. Accent makes just the beginning of the note louder. Some would argue that that's a dynamic and not an articulation. And then the cap, little upside down letter V, is a combination of an accent and a staccato. Once again, caps can be played differently in different styles of music. So in general, when we think of articulation, it's the way that we start and stop the note, or the space between multiple notes. So today, we are going to explore painting articulations. So I have here some paper and my paintbrush and some paint. So if a normal note is like blah, 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 then an accented note might be more like blah. But a staccato note might be as short as we can make it. Blup, blup, blup. And there's so many variations because then we have the slurred notes, ta, 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 ta. The legato notes, ta, 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 tiniest little break. And then we might have some marcato notes, need to borrow some paint. Ta, 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 where we have more space between them, which would be very different than the staccato. Because with the staccato, there's a lot of space between the notes. So here we have some imaginary quarter notes. We'll ignore what I did first. So if we have regular quarter notes with just a tiny little break between them, those are regular quarter notes. Marcato with more space would be here. Staccato with less space would be here. Legato, as smooth as possible without tonguing, or as smooth as possible while still tonguing, so the break between the notes is as small as you can possibly get it. Now, if we want to think about the accent, the beginning of the note is louder. I'm using it like bigger for louder. And if we want to think about cap, The beginning is loud, but it's also short. Depending on what style of music you're doing, a lot of people, when they have the caps, will use the tonguing tut. Others might use that for staccato. Depends on whether you want to use stop tonguing for staccato or not, but caps would very often have the stop tonguing. So here we have some paint articulations, and I would love to see your visual representations of some articulations. You could do it with paint, pencil, marker, pen. You could do it with chalk outside on your driveway. You could do it in Google Draw. But whatever you do, we would want to just do a little label. So these were Marcato. A staccato with 2 C's in the middle. Regular tonguing. Legato. I didn't have these in a specific order when I was painting. And this would be accent. And this would be cap. If you wanted to do it in the same order as the computer screen, you could. If you just want to do it free form, you can, but would love to see lots of people posting either a picture of their final product or a little video of them doing it, creating a visual representation of their articulation marks. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.